Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Talking Brazil Ball. I'm your host, James Brook, and I'm here once again, as usual, with my co-host, George. How is it going, George? It's been another great weekend of Brazilian football action. How have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, good afternoon, James. Good afternoon, or whatever it is, to anybody, wherever they're listening to. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been some good games, hasn't there? And I mean, there's been some hell of a goals, some hella good goals, hasn't there, as well in this round of fixtures.
Hella good,
So
yeah.
yes, there's been some good ones to enjoy, and yeah, it's been a good round. I mean, how have you enjoyed it?
Fantastically, yeah. I think you've summed it up nicely there, haven't you? It's been hella good.
Yeah, hella
Lots
good,
of
super good, and then I
super
keep
good.
for anybody who's again. I mean, it wasn't doing this a minute ago, but I keep almost disappearing again into the picture behind me. Uh, for anybody watching on YouTube,
Yeah, you're a flasher again, aren't you? You're becoming
again,
getting a bit of a reputation, I think, aren't you?
yeah, somebody's gonna have to be calling the calling the police in if I'm not careful.
Sounds like it, yeah, flashing in and out. Anyway, like George said, you'll see if you're watching on YouTube again, we've got the images behind us of the games that we're going to be taking a quick or an more in-depth look at just shortly. But to kick off, like we did last time, we know we're in match day 3 now. So listeners last week will know we covered the first match day 1 and 2, and that was the first time obviously that we've been looking at the games. So we're going to follow a similar kind of format this time around. We picked the games out that we're going to be looking at as games of the weekend. So I'm going to be covering the Mineiro derby, the Clásico Mineiro, Atletico Mineiro, Galo against Cruzeiro, and George is going to kick us off with the biggest game of the weekend on paper, anyway, which was Palmeiras against Flamengo. But before we do that, George, it's going to be your honour again to read out in full the results of anybody. You can do your best impression of that chap on Football Focus who used to come on and read the results.
Yeah, yeah,
Caledonian Thistle 1.
yeah. Well, I'll do that if you like. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got the results here in front of me from match day 3. So starting from top to bottom. You're going to have that fancy jingle on again, are you, James?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think it's tradition now, isn't it? So, yeah, let's get the jingle going. Oh, there we go.
Here we are. So
And then, yeah,
starting with Saturday, the 20th of April. Fluminense 2, Vasco da Gama 1, Grêmio 1, Cuiabá 0, Red Bull Bragantino 1, Corinthians 0. Going into Sunday, April 21st, Galo 3, Cruzeiro 0, Atletico Paranense 1, Internacional 0, Palmeiras 0, Flamengo 0, Vitória 2, Bahia 2, Atletico Go 0, Sao Paulo 3, and a massive win for Botafogo 5, Juventude 1. And that concludes the results, James, of match day 3.
there you go. Fantastic. Yeah, we're getting a bit carried away again, weren't we, with that music?
Yeah, I think you were about to start dancing with when it came on there. But yeah, no, some good results there, James, and some, like I said, some cracking goals in amongst them all. A few sort of dull matches, as I'm unfortunately probably going to cover in a few minutes. It was, like you said, one that was heavily anticipated. It offered very, very little in the end, but we'll get on to that in due course.
Yeah, well, that's often the way with these big games. I mean, and that's partly the reason why we wanted to focus on kind of a little bit different. We don't want to look at the big games, the big teams. Well, the big games perhaps, but we don't always want to focus on the big teams when we cover these games of the week, because they do often fail to deliver, and there's usually a better game to be had perhaps lower down the table. So but there are certain games that you can't ignore, and this being between the two teams who've won, I think, 5 of the last 6, isn't it? Titles. You can't help but cover it. I mean, it's a bit of a disappointment. It's disappointing when two big teams play so early in the season, almost, because they don't really want to give an inch. You don't know what the season is shaping up to be just yet. So big teams facing each other are often much more cagey affairs than they might be later on in the season, when they've opened up a bit and they're wanting to go at each other, and one of them might need to win. So it looks very much like a case of one of them where early in the season they both probably shake hands on a point, although Palmeiras heading into it did need a win, really, having only won 1 and lost to Inter the week before. So as we covered last week, they were back at the Allianz Parque, weren't they, George? And what did you kind of notice from the game? What would you like to pick out from it as your game of the weekend?
Well, yeah, like you said, James, they were back at the home ground after obviously Taylor Swift had destroyed the previous game in with her efforts in her tour, and she were playing there, weren't she? So she destroyed that. There's a like you alluded to last week, there was a depleted crowd. There was looking at the highlights of the game and everything, there was a big green sheet behind one of the goals, which obviously, like you said, one of the stands was completely closed off, which had the attendance of the game just under 30,000 people there. I'm not sure how many travelled from Flamengo's side, but yeah, all in all, really, really drab, boring game. To be fair, James, it was billed highly, like you said, highly anticipated, these clashes, and often in the Premier League we see it, don't we, where big teams come up against each other, and it just ends up being a completely boring game. And this was definitely, it fell into that category. Definitely, there was, if you have a look at the stats, I mean, Abel Ferreira was trying to play a bit of mind games with Tite before the game. I think James saying all sorts like, the pressure was all on Flamengo, and Palmeiras didn't have quite the financial might that Flamengo had, and this, that, and the other. And in the end, it was just a boring draw. If you have a look, there was a total of 4 shots on target in the whole game. 1 was for Palmeiras, the other 3 were for Flamengo. So they just kind of cancelled each other's out. There was 1 big chance in the game which fell to Flamengo, which was obviously missed. And it just a very even game by the look of it. Wasn't much in the way of chances when I was having a look into the highlights, I must admit. And, having a look at what the fans said, really, from both sides, I think Palmeiras are definitely getting a little bit anxious and agitated with certain individuals in the team. I think Abel Ferreira came out afterwards and sort of said that basically he got it wrong, and both of them both managers seem to be complaining that the schedule of so early on in the season, that the packed so many games in, and the players need resting. And one particular that was under the microscope, James, was your man Veiga, who I think Abel Ferreira was saying he shouldn't have played him. Now, he played 76 minutes of this game, but from looking at the fan reaction from Palmeiras' side as well, they weren't happy maybe that he was playing so much of the game. And I even heard calls in some quarters for the young lad Romulo to start, 22-year-old, only just signed.
Yeah,
from lower.
Come from lower divisions, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He's come from. Now
Go
wait for this one, James. But bear with me. But he's come from Novo Horizontino. So he's come from there. He's only played. I think he played 1 previous this season, but a lot of fans were calling for him instead of Veiga. It don't look like they're quite too happy with him. Whereas
And was that because of a fitness issue, or was that because of just
yes,
a performance issue? They didn't want him playing so much, or was it because he's not playing well?
I think it's because of the a bit of both maybe, but I think it's mainly because of fitness issues. Definitely, in terms of Ferreira, seemed to be, from what I could gather, he wasn't happy with, he said to the press afterwards, basically, I should have protected him a bit more. I maybe shouldn't have played him. So I think it's more of a, you know what I mean, of a sort of, he's playing too much, basically. And I think from as well, from the Flamengo side, I think Tite, both managers were booked in this game. I don't know if there was a bit of a ruckus between the two of them at some stage in the match, but maybe a little bit heated. But Tite, he was complaining about the referee, decisions in some part as well. But he as well has his own fitness issues. He didn't start with Pedro or Nicolas de la Cruz, or Nico as they call him, and a lot of fans didn't seem happy with that either. Why did he not come on sooner, and this, that, and the other? Pedro came on at half time. De la Cruz didn't come on to the 75th minute, but again he was complaining like Ferreira that basically it was an issue, but the fitness issue of the pair, they weren't quite right at it. And if you have a look, James, it's quite funny. I mean, I don't know, Tite's maybe looking at a bit of a fashion statement. He was wearing in the game, he was wearing like a suit top, like a suit shirt, but we had like one of the sub bibs over, over it. So I don't know why that was, but very, very strange. And also,
maybe he was having fitness. Maybe he was on the bench. He had that many fitness issues.
Maybe he was. You don't know, James, because maybe he was. I mean, if you look at the starting 11, even as a novice looking at the Flamengo team, it doesn't look at its strongest at all. Starting with the Carlinhos as the main striker, it doesn't really seem, like the right thing. Perhaps he's only just signed from them again from the lower leagues in Brazil, so not quite good. But I think Flamengo, probably looking at it from the outside inwards, probably the better, the happier of the two sides. Like you said, sometimes are quite happy to just say, hey, let's just settle for a draw and we'll have bigger games to come. But wasn't by all means a classic at all. But just a little bit of a tidbit as well from the game, James, that I saw. Now Palmeiras, they had a special guest there, and at the game, and it was, just bear with me, I'm just trying to find it. It was a rock band frontman by the name of, I think his name is Egipcio. Yeah, Egipcio he's a rock band frontman from, I think, the Brazilian rock band is Sao Paulo-based rock band Tijuana, who were a rock band, a Sao Paulo-based rock band, Brazilian, obviously, from late 90s to sort of the collapsed or packed it in probably 7 years ago. He's now started up a new one called Cali, and that's a rock band again. So he was a guest there, I think, on Sunday. So yeah, Egipcio from the band Cali, former Taihuna, but Taihuna, that's the band, I think. But also, I did see on some of the comments there that introduced him as a guest. That a lot of the Palmeiras fans were saying, "Oh, who's this?" You know what I mean? But some of them didn't know. But from when I looked it up, and also he was wearing the number 69 shirt. He's wearing the home shirt, the green one, and he's holding up the away one, the white shirt. I did see some comments sort of laughing at the number that he had on, on the back as well. But yeah, I mean, so he was like a special guest. But go check that music out. It's like rock. It's like, it's like rock, reggae, bit of ska, this sort of thing. So,
we'll have to check that. I was trying to find it there, but I don't know how you're spelling it. So it's kind of.
Hang on, I'll tell you.
We can play it for the listeners.
Yeah, well, that was what I mean. We could play a bit, but let's just see how I'm spelling this one here. Tihuana.
Tijuana.
Yeah, so he's a front man. This Egypt show.
Wow. Let's see what this is all about. Fantastic. I mean, I thought you were going to say Taylor Swift was going to have been there. I mean, we thought she might be at the last one, having played there just a couple of days before. But obviously, you can't. Ferreira can't blame it on Taylor this time. He's going to have to find somebody else to kind of blame. Well, let's listen to this then.
I don't know. It's not working, is it? But
is it not working? Oh, I can hear it. Oh, right. Okay. Well, that
no. But I mean, I could try and see if it comes out of mine.
No, don't worry. It's all right. But, we need to push on. But yeah, any final thoughts of that? Then it seems like a disappointing game. Like you say, probably a better point for Flamengo away from home, and Palmeiras. After 3 games, they've only got 4 points, haven't they? So disappointing start for them. But like I say, both have got fitness problems. They've got the Copa Libertadores coming up this midweek as well, so that probably had a little bit of a factor in the starting 11s as well. But yeah, any final thoughts before we move on to the Clásico Mineiro?
Well, yeah, like I said, I think it's early season, James. Both of them, going to have to settle for it. I think Flamengo definitely level on points with RB Bragantino at the top. 3 points better off than Palmeiras at this early stage. Then we're much more happier with the point than the away ground as well. Much more happier, but I think both of them maybe will just say, "Hey, we didn't lose a game. Let's crack on and see where we are in later on in the league." But obviously, like you said, there's a big build up of fixtures. There's got the Libertadores as well. There's a Brazilian Cup coming up as well. So it's big build up of fixtures. Not a classic game. A bit of a bore draw in the end.
Yeah, and they don't stop. Don't forget they've already played a heck of a lot of games as well in the regional championship. So it doesn't they don't make it easy on them anyway.
No.
But yeah, that was Palmeiras Flamengo, a bit of a disappointment. But moving on to the next game, which was thankfully had a couple of goals in it and a couple of really really good goals as well for us to have a look at. And George, you'll have certainly enjoyed this one. Being a Galo fan, it was the Clásico Mineiro, which is of course Atletico Mineiro against Cruzeiro, the 2 teams of Belo Horizonte. If you wanted to listen more about those 2 teams and indeed the teams of Belo Horizonte, you can head back and listen to one of our earlier episodes where we covered them in a bit more depth. But George, I'm going to just ask how you reacted to this. I know you must have been delighted.
Yeah, I was delighted, James. I was up early in the morning, digging it into Cruzeiro fans on X. So doing my best Brazilian there, sort of typing out Brazilian into Google Translate and putting it onto X. Digging into the Cruzeiro fans and singing songs about Scarpa and Hulk and all this, into the early hours of the morning. So yeah. It's fun. To be fair, in all honesty, I slept through the whole game, but yeah.
Well,
delighted.
It wasn't because it was boring. Certainly, I mean, you say you were taken to X there. I mean, you weren't the only one. It was obviously such early in the season, really good to get a marker down and for them to get the rivals on the back foot like that. And they actually have a name for them. They each have a name for each other, these 2 sets of fans. So it's a very old derby, actually. It's about 100 years old now. And so the Galo fans call the Cruzeiro fans Marias, which I think is a bit of a kind of a slight at them being maybe slightly effeminate. I'm not sure. It's supposed to be a play on the big fan group from Cruzeiro, which is called Mafia Azul, Blue Mafia, but they call them instead of Mafia, Maria, I think. So it's like trying to call them kind of girls, which isn't very PC. And then the Cruzeiro fans call the Galo fans in return. You like this one? They call them frangas, which is chickens.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah, you're right. I do. I like that one. That's kind of clever, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, so you might have some Cruzeiro fans below the lines in the comment calling you a franga.
Fair enough. Well, give it. Yeah, do it. Fair enough.
Do it. So yeah, they have a long history of rivalry. They like to. I mean, it's kind of a mixed. It's kind of a shared history. I think they're both kind of quite big clubs, really, and they both seem to enjoy success against each other. But this one was at the home of Galo, the Arena MRV. And it was pretty straightforward win in the end. I mean, they came out the blocks flying, and they were 3-0 up by half time. Scarpa was heavily involved in everything good, really, that Gallo did, and he had a hand in 2 of the 3 goals. I mean, the first one which was a strong contender for our goal of the round, actually, was Zaracho, the Argentinian, and it was just a delicious assist from Scarpa. He cuts in off the right hand side onto his left foot, and it's not a cross. It's kind. I mean, it's a whip ball in, but it's not a cross. It's kind of a very deliberately dinked ball to find the run of Zaracho, who's kind of worked his way through the defenders, and it's just perfect for him. And it's an overhead kick, and he barely touches it. Really, just gets a nick on it, but it's enough. It's all it needed to divert it into the goal. So a brilliant assist. This is a proper assist. This isn't, sometimes you look at assist stats and it's a sideways pass or a dribble from 50 yards. He still gets the assist. If we had Liverpool on one the other day, and the defender smashed it against Luis Diaz and it hit him, and then McAllister buries it into the top corner. Diaz gets the assist. He didn't do anything. But this one from Scarpa was a proper assist. Saw the run, delivered the pass, beautiful finish, set them off fantastically. The second goal was Palhinha with a tap in. It was again, Scarpa did good work on the right hand side, whip ball in. It eventually came out to Hulk, and he smashed one in into the kind of 6-yard box. It was a shot really, but Palhinha, it was going wide. Palhinha buried it. I think his first of the season. And then the third was a real mistake from the goalkeeper. To be honest, Scarpa again switches the play over to Arana. But it's just a pot shot from about 30 yards out, and the keeper really should deal with it, but he doesn't. He just kind of spills it into the net, really, and that was that. 3-0. That was where the goal scoring ended. 3 up before half time. Cruzeiro couldn't get back into it. They never really threatened, as far as I can really tell. And that was the end of the game. But of course, as you said, George, I mean, I don't know if you've got any observations, first of all, about the kind of the on-pitch goings on.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a few good goals, weren't there, James? Like you said, in particular, I mean, that was an early one for our goal of the round. That Zaracho goal. It was like you said, it was a lovely pick out, wasn't it, from Scarpa, and it just it was a lovely kind of overhead kick-esque kind of shot. But yeah, pretty straightforward. I think Cruzeiro, I think they will struggle actually. And I didn't actually realise Mateus Pereira was playing for them as well, actually.
Is that the former West Brom?
Yeah, former West Brom Brazilian man. Did very, very well at West Brom. I was a bit surprised when he wasn't sort of moved on, didn't get a move to the Premier League at the time. He was playing really, really well for West Brom. Yeah. But he ended up going to Saudi Arabia, I think, or somewhere along those lines. And I think he's on loan at Cruzeiro till the end of the season, possibly. So, yeah, I was surprised to see him on the team sheet for them. But all in all, pretty standard, pretty win. They'll have enjoyed that, the Galo fans. And you mentioned, James, about them calling. So I know it's not PC, is it? Really calling them sort of girls, but Leeds have a similar sort of thing with Sheffield Wednesday, which we call them Wendy's. So it's a similar sort of thing. Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, easy win for Galo. It's good and one that was needed as well for them, because they'd sort of stumbled a little bit. They played Criciúma last time. They stumbled to a late-ish goal. So they needed that win, and hopefully that kicks them on to better days now. And they seem to be working well.
Yeah. So yeah, it was the first win of the season, 2 draws. So all of a sudden, 3 games, it turns into unbeaten rather than without a win, and you can kick on from there. But they certainly did enjoy it. I mean, we often see I mean, we don't see it as much anymore, kind of needle between teams in these big games, and sometimes it can be missing that. But there was certainly plenty of needle off the pitch in this one. I mean, the Galo social media team, I think in particular, seemed to enjoy this. Maybe riding on the back of a few of your tweets, George. At the end of the game, they changed all of their posts that had an E in the post, so they changed the E to a 3 to signal, the 3 goals. So
wow,
it made some of them a bit indecipherable, but it was obviously a real dig at Cruzeiro for conceding those 3 goals, and it didn't stop there. They wrote a post which I've got here, which says we won in Mineiro. So they beat them in the Mineiro. The championship just 2 weeks ago in the final. So they already had beaten them twice this season, I think, in both legs to win the Mineiro. So they referenced that after the game. They said we won in Mineiro, we won in Arena MRV. We just didn't win at their house because they don't have one. And this happens to, I think, Cruzeiro play at the local kind of government stadium. So I mean, Arena MRV is owned by Galo, which I think is quite rare in Brazilian football, as it is in Italian football, that they don't necessarily own the stadiums, but Galo do. There's a couple of others that do as well now, but Cruzeiro don't. And I think they've had plans potentially to knock up their own stadium, but they've never done it. So they kind of, poking fun, saying, look, we've beaten them everywhere, but we can't beat you in your house because you're homeless, basically. So,
I mean, to be fair, they're having a go, but they did scrape it really against Cruzeiro in the Mineiro at the sort of end of March and early April. The Cruzeiro were 2-0 up in one game, ended 2-2, and then the next leg they were 1-0 up and it ended 3-1 in the end. But it took Galo till the second half to kick on and win that game. So, but it's all fun and games, isn't it? It's derby thing, isn't it? It's the derby. It's winning the derby. It's great.
Yeah, that's what you want to see. I mean, it doesn't matter how you win it, does it? If you're going to scrape it, or if you've like they've done here, they've battered them 3-0. It doesn't really matter. Another man who enjoyed the win was Arana. I think it's Guilherme Arana, the guy who got the 3rd goal. I mean, his celebration, I don't know if you saw his celebration, but it was the kind of Kylian Mbappe. I'll do it for the viewers on YouTube. The rubbing your eyes, crying.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all kind of at least 3 sides of the crowd. He didn't leave anybody out. He wanted to make sure that everybody knew. And as it turns out, he's got a bit of a history at kind of antagonising the Cruzeiro fans as well.
Really?
After that win in the Mineiro earlier in the year, he was having I couldn't get the full details of the story, but it seems he was basically having a barbecue, celebrating with his family. Some point along the line, he cut his finger or something, and he needed to go to the hospital or A&E or something. And he did a live stream from the hospital, and he said something along the lines of, "We're in the Libertadores, doctor. There are teams that are not there, so I think tomorrow is a day off for them." So he was saying, you need to get me ready for tomorrow. But there's some other teams aren't playing in the Copa Libertadores this year, so a bit of a day off for them. So Cruzeiro, who are in the Sudamericana this year. So Arana, a popular man in half of Belo Horizonte, and he's probably needs to watch his back in the other kind of half of it. But fun and games all around. I've got behind me there a picture of Paulinho and Hulk celebrating. 2 big players who had a hand in the win. But from a Cruzeiro point of view as well, it's important to look at them as well. They've started relatively well. They had a good win against Botafogo. Matchday won. They drew, I think, the second game was at Fortaleza. Yeah. And this was obviously a bit of a kick in the teeth. And the man I just wanted to highlight at the end of it was the goalkeeper, because he did make a really big error to allow that 3rd one in, and it's actually only his 4th game for Cruzeiro. He was brought in last year as a backup keeper, and they've actually sold their first choice, or in the process of selling him, Rafael Cabral. So this guy Anderson, he's called, is suddenly thrust in as the number 1. And he obviously wasn't very happy after the game. He said, I calculated for a type of ball and it ended up going another way, and I can't do that at the level I'm playing at, and I need to work to make sure it doesn't happen again. But I don't think he's going to get too much chance, to be honest, because they've just signed a guy called Gabriel Grando from Grêmio, who looks like, I think he was the first choice at Grêmio. Or he certainly played a lot of games for them, and it looks like he's probably going to be now the first choice on the back of a mistake like that. So you feel for him a little bit. But Cruzeiro, they need to put this behind them and make sure they don't let it become a big thing. Because they do have a game this midweek against Union La Calera, I think it is, a Chilean side on Thursday. So, yeah, I think they've still got enough to kind of to stay up and do well, but they need to put this behind them quickly.
Yeah, well, that's actually tonight, James. As
Is it?
at the day of recording, yeah, late tonight, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, Union La Calera in Sudamericana. So yeah, I think there's a few teams. Must be a few teams playing in the Sudamericana. There are,
yeah, there are.
Gremio, and yeah, there's I think there's only Gremio actually, but yeah. So yeah, like you said, they need to put them behind. They started pretty well, like you said. It was a good win against Botafogo on the opening day. Followed it up with a draw at Fortaleza, and then this is going to hurt them, but they've got to keep going, and they've got a winnable game next. So hopefully, at their point of view, they can put it behind them and get back to winning situations.
Yeah, let's hope so for them. Anyway, that was the Clásico Mineiro. And a real treat for us, in early on in the season. I think a derby that did live up to some kind of a hype, and obviously a very successful one for George. Was it Franga? Franga, right?
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? I'll be getting all sorts of comments now saying, "Yeah, Franga. Well, whatever. There's worse things to be called, aren't there?
That's
You know what I mean?
That's true. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on swiftly because we want to give out the awards. That's what we've kind of become known for. I think among the podcast community, we're handing out these awards to the player of the round, to the goal of the round, and the young player of the round of the Serie A match day. So last week we had a big kind of double award for Mr. Jean Carlos, who didn't really turn up this week. I think the less said about Jean, the better. They obviously got hammered 5-1 by Botafogo, but there is still, the show must go on, and there is still a player of the round. So, George, do you want to introduce who we've gone for as the player of the round this week and justify his inclusion this time?
Yeah, well, I will, James. But just a word on Gene. Obviously, like you said, we gave him a couple of awards last week. He only played 40 for the first half of the game against Botafogo. I mean, they were 2-0 down at half time and 2-0 down very, very quickly, and he got whipped off. But this week's player of the round, it was going to and fro between us, wasn't it, throughout the weekend? But we settled on Gabriel Teixeira, who's playing for Bahia, and I think I was making the case for him initially because he came on. It was a derby game against Vitória. They were 2-0 down Bahia, and he came on in the last half an hour, in the 60th minute of the game, and within 9 minutes he'd already got a goal, albeit it was a tap in. A player lifted the ball, it got into the box, lifted the ball over the goalkeeper. It was headed off the line by a defender, and he basically it was like a block, middle of the goal, open net. It went in, got a goal back for them, and then immediately a few minutes after that, he set up the equalising goal, which was like a square ball on the edge of the box to the man who eventually just absolutely blasted it into the net, off the bar, I think it was, and that gave them a 2-2 draw. But I thought that he really, if you look at it, he came on 60th minute, scored in the 69th minute, set up the equaliser in the 72nd minute. So for me, I thought he definitely there was a couple of there's a couple of candidates, weren't there, James, that we did speak about, but I thought just the fact that it was a derby game, he brought them back into the match, really, and I thought that was due course to give him. I thought he deserved it this week, really.
Yeah, I think we had to. He, like you say, it was the derby, the Bavi derby, the Salvador derby, Salvador Dali. We nearly covered this one, didn't we? But I think the Clásico Mineiro just about edged it out, but it was a good game. Obviously, disappointing for Victoria having gone 2-up and also gone close against Palmeiras on match day 1. And I'm still back in the match. I put them as a surprise. Surprise package for the season. I think they've shown enough in those first 2 games to show that they will be kind of competitive at the very least. But yeah, Teixeira, he actually goes by a name BL, they call him.
Yeah.
In Bahia, he's been there since 2023. And I saw, the social media reaction afterwards was very positive indeed. I think people couldn't quite work out why he wasn't starting. I don't think Bahia haven't got a midweek game, have they? They're not in the continental competition, so
No.
You have to wonder why he wasn't starting. I mean, the fans after the game were saying every game he plays, he makes a difference, and it's been clear for a while, and he has to start basically. Based on this year, I'd say he should do.
Yeah, he should. But sorry, go on. They do have a midweek game actually. Wednesday, 9:00 UK time. It's a Coppa di Nordeste against CRB. So their play. It's a packed schedule because then they've got the weekend game, and then they've got another midweek game in the Brazilian Cup, and that's a decent match for them against Criciúma. So, so maybe that is why it's like you said, they played a lot of games with the local tournaments before the season started as well. So there is a lot of games to be played, and you can understand in a way why coaches do rotate excuse me, more often than maybe they do in Europe. But yeah, I mean, when you come on and score and then you assist, the fans are going to be asking questions of the manager, saying, "Hey, why is he not starting?" You know what I mean? I mean, yeah.
The manager's Rogério Ceni, who,
of
course, we remember from his Sao Paulo days as a goalkeeper. And I think he kind of shrugged it off. It seemed to be he wasn't particularly, bothered. He was happy, I think, with the way they came back. And again, you look at Palmeiras Flamengo was a better point for the away team. I think you'd have to say that this one was as well. Obviously, anytime you come from 2 down, no matter who you are, who you're playing, you're going to be relatively happy. You're not, at the very least, you're not going to be upset. You have to take that and move on, really. And if it hadn't been for BL, then I don't think they would have done, really. He really did change it. And like we said with Scarpa, that was a proper assist. This one was a bit of a kind of a jammy one, just a sideways pass, but he was there making a difference in the final third, and that's all you can ask, really. So he's only 23. He's not an old player. He's perhaps somebody to watch on and see how he kind of kicks on, and if he does develop into somebody who can start on a regular basis, change games on a regular basis. But yeah, I think a very well deserving player of the round this round. So well done to Mr. Gabriel BL Teixeira, who is our third, awardee of the player of the round. And nobody's got a second one just yet. Jean Carlos scuppered his chances this week, so we'll see if anybody can knock Teixeira off the throne next week. But moving swiftly on again. Let's have a look at the goals of the round, George, because there really were, like you said earlier, some real screamers. And we had a bit of a back and forth about this one, and there was one that you nearly picked, which you did title the show after. I don't know if you want to talk briefly about that goal, because it was very nearly the goal of the round, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this goal was fantastic. Like I said, there was some real pearlers in this match day round. But yeah, and we nearly went with this one, but I think we've rightly gone with what we have. But it was a brilliant goal, Canobbio, and like viewers know, we've titled this episode about because I just thought he sounds like Obi-Wan Kenobi, so it's a great name, Canobbio, and obviously Inter felt the full force of him on the weekend. It was a great goal, curled in from the edge of the box at a time where the game was probably a bit in the balance. I think Inter had quite a few chances which they missed. I think Bore had a few opportunities where he just seemed to fluff his lines, and Canobbio came up with a great strike, edge of the box, curled into the top corner. Unfortunately for him, he got himself sent off very quickly towards the end of the game. 2 yellow cards within a minute. So he misses Paranense's next game, which is Juventud. I don't think it goes for any other competition, so he'll be out for the league game. So, yeah, silly double yellow card, red card, daft. But he won the game for them, and it was just brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was a really good goal. Canobbio goal, they seem to call him, didn't they? There was a little girl holding up the sign.
That's
Just like
right.
printed
Yeah.
out A4 sheet, Canobbio goal. But
Yeah,
Obi-Wan,
that's it. I mean, I think it was great, and the commentary is great, James, in it, because I think the commentator was also saying it, if I can remember correctly, as well. And cannot be goal, goal, goal. It's just.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? That
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was a really good goal, but it did not win. It didn't do enough to do our goal of the round, and neither did Everaldo, who I think was a bit unfortunate as well. That was Biel's little sideways pass to him for Bahia, and he absolutely thunderblasts it off the bar. He just absolutely belts it, almost breaks the bar, and he doesn't even seem to celebrate. I don't think he's even bothered. He just kind of, I mean, maybe I'm making that up, but I seem to remember him just kind of walking off as if it, so what? But that was a great equaliser as well. Big goal for him. We've already spoken about the overhead kick from Zaracho for Galo, which for me was right up there because of the assist really from Scarpa. It was an absolutely beautiful ball in, and just the the athleticism. Often in overhead kicks, I'm not a big fan of overhead kicks. Sometimes I think they get kind of overrated a bit. But this was a nice one just because he connected just so subtly, just in as much as he needed to, and just the ball made it perfect. And then the last one, which I think we really considered, was from Botafogo, Savarino, who scored a direct free kick. So you get a free kick, you're always going to be up there. That was a nice goal as well. But yeah, did you have something to add there on Everaldo?
Yeah, well, Everaldo, James. I mean, Seni's got to take the plaudits really, because Everaldo came on with Teixeira in the 60th minute of the game, so he's changed it with two subs. Well, actually, three subs. But the two lads who came on, two of the three lads who came on the 60th minute have gone on to affect the game and pull them back into it. So yeah, Everaldo, came on and. With Teixeira, they both had a hand in pulling Bahia back on that day. So yeah, Seni gets the plaudits. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, it was a lovely goal, that one. Like you said, and a direct free kick is always going to be up there as well, like you said. But we have already picked one of them. Match day one, didn't we? So we can't have too many of them, really, can you? And you've got to share it out, share the different goals out, and this certainly is a different goal than what we've actually gone for, isn't it? So
it is, yeah, it is. Well, I'm just looking at the Everaldo goal again. Actually, he does celebrate, but not overly so. Actually, just kind of jogs towards the stands. But credit to Rogerio Ceni for that. Yeah, the goal that we've chosen is, I mean, it could only be this one really, just because you don't see goals like this very often. It was a goal by Danilo Barbosa. For Botafogo. It was the third goal of the game, of their 5-1 win. And it was basically just a beautiful team goal. It came on the end of, I think it was 13 or 14 passes, right from the defence. I mean, it's not a slick passing move particularly. It's a bit laboured. The passes in the early stages especially are a little bit slow, but then it really picks up in the middle of the park. A few nice touches, a nice spray out to the right wing. And then it's pulled in. I don't know who got the assist, actually. I think it was Diego Hernandez. It was a really nice little drag back, beats the defender, and then he just squares it for Danilo, who could have missed. It's an open net, but they've taken the whole of the Juventud team out of the game and laid it on a plate for the centre midfielder, and he couldn't miss. But it's a really good goal, really well worked. And like I said, you don't always want to pick one that's a blaster from distance or a free kick. You want to pick out something that's a bit different. And yeah, I was really impressed with this goal, and it showed what Botafogo fans can perhaps look forward to under Artur Jorge. He started relatively well, and if that's a sign of the kind of the football that's to come, then they're going to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely, James. There will be, and I think it was it was Santos that got the assist for
was
Danilo on
it?
that one. Yeah. So he got a goal and assist in that game.
Yeah.
But it was, like you said, it was a little bit laboured initially, the pass. It came all the way from the goalkeeper. It was 14. I counted 14 passes in between them starting the move and scoring the goal. But like I said, it started with all the way at the very back of the goalkeeper, and was a little bit slow. And then it was I think at one point there was a chip ball up to the halfway line. Who one of the players headed it down, and there was a bit of one touch sort of passing, which then, like you said, made the space for the man to spray the ball out to I think it was Santos who was waiting out on the wing who crossed the ball in, and there's Danilo to just sort of do the simple thing.
No, it wasn't. Well, it wasn't a cross any. I mean, he sprays it out wide, and then there's like a bit of interplay on the edge of the area. It's not. He doesn't cross it. It's kind of interplay, and then he gets to the in the 6-yard box. He squares it basically from further in. So yeah, it's a proper team move right up until
it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And then, like you said, Danilo has the sort of simplest of touches really to just pass it in on about the 6-yard box, isn't it? So it was a great goal, and I think we had to go with that one once we'd seen that. Well, that was like the final game of the weekend as well, wasn't it? Really, so it was. We waited long enough for it, and it came along, but there was some fantastic in between. Like I said, probably my personal favourite was that Canobbio one, but that was brilliant, and it was well worth the award, I think, in the end.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. So. Just a little bit more on Danilo. Really, it's worth looking at. I think once we give these awards out, it's worth looking a little bit at the players. He's quite an interesting career. Really, he's 28 now. He's been around a bit. He's played for Nice. He's played for Braga in Portugal. He's played for Standard Liège in Belgium. He was also at Benfica for a spell. He's played in Spain with Valencia. So he's been around a fair bit. He's been at Botafogo for a couple of years now, and a former Brazil under-20 international. So a good player in there, and he's actually the second Botafogo player to win an award after Ponte won last week, didn't he? The young player of the round. So two early contenders there. But yeah, talking about the young player of the round, let's hand that out. The last award of the weekend. So yeah, do you want to introduce this chap? Actually, no. We had a couple of contenders as well for this. Kind of, it was a bit more interesting this week in terms of younger players, because I think last week there wasn't a great deal going on with Ponte. But there's a couple to highlight. Gustavo Gomez was one for Grêmio. He's only 18. He made his first Serie A start. Played the whole 90 minutes. Was taken off in injury time, I think, and he's one to note because I did a piece earlier this week. He's been linked with, or last week, he was linked with Liverpool. Liverpool were apparently scouting him, as were United, and I think Arsenal. So he's one that's on the radar of top teams in Europe. Only 18, a winger, and yeah, he didn't. I don't think he didn't score the goal, or he didn't contribute to the only goal of that game, but he played a part. So he's one to keep a close watch on.
Yeah, definitely, James. And then there's another few for for the man who's playing for the team that we did eventually give it to as well, isn't there? There's a few. I think there's obviously giving the game away a little bit. It's a Bragantino player we've given it to, but there's a few in there as well. There's Douglas Mendes, 19-year-old centre back who's on loan from. It's a bit of a product of the RB system, this lad, because he's on loan from Salzburg, RB Salzburg in Austria, has knocked around the Austrian league a little bit, and he's actually on loan, like I said, at until January of 2025 at Bragantino. So there's him there playing at centre back. I think he had a decent enough game, but we didn't pick him in the end. And also there's a lad in the middle of the park for them, Gustavino, who's 20-year-old again. So he's youngish player, played quite a little bit of football for Bragantino coming through the academy. Last season was his first season in the first team. Played a decent amount of games in Serie A. At a young age for them. So, but also we didn't mention the Vasco da Gama striker, did we? Ryan, who's incredible. He's only 17 and he's played a very good amount of football in, you know, first division football for a lad who's just 17. It's quite incredible, really.
Well, I think he's played about 15 games, hasn't he? So it's a good amount. I mean, if you compare him to somebody like Hendrick, who's the same age, it's, you know, it pales in comparison. But for me, anybody who's playing top level football at wherever you are at 17 is somebody to keep an eye on. And he didn't start the game; he came on at half time. For Vasco, couldn't stop them from losing. But like I say, anybody who's 17 and is coming on in the top division, especially in Brazil, really, where we know about all the young talents that are to play there, is impressive. I mean, just on Douglas Mendes, he looks like he's going to be a starter for them. He started all 3 games in the Brasileirão so far. He was at Liefering, which is RB Salzburg's sister club in Austria as well.
Oh, is it? Oh,
that's what he was doing over there. And yeah, we know all about Salzburg. They know what they're doing with these young talents, and yeah, he's for sure. I mean, it's a shame he's only around until mid-season. Actually, no, sorry, he's around all year, isn't he? Yeah, until January 2025. Yeah, so we'll get to see him all year, and I've no doubt that he's going to be one to watch for, probably for the Seleção, for the national team moving forward. But yeah, like you said, we didn't go for any of those, but they all, we know, had reasonable shouts in their own right. But this was your man, really, wasn't it, Georgia? You wanted to give this one award to. Do you want to introduce him? Like you say, he plays for Bragantino, and he had an impact on the game at the weekend.
Yeah, he did. And just to, you know, you mentioned about RB Salzburg, James. I wish I didn't know as much as I do about RB Salzburg, if you know what I mean, in terms of some of the players. Well, and the rest, you know what I mean? Aronson and Christensen, and we had a bit of a dabble in there, which we probably regretted eventually, but there you go. So anyway, the man who's won the Young Player of the Award this week, James, a man named Bruno Goncalves. Bruno Gonçalves, or just for short, Bruninho. So he's 21-year-old Brazilian man, of course. Like you said, he had a hand to play in Bragantino's one and only goal, which sealed a 1-0 win over Corinthians. He provided the assist for Vitinho. It was a lovely goal. It was a lovely ball, actually, sort of right on the halfway or just into the Corinthians half. He played a lovely long field pass, cross pass to Vitinho's on the other side of the pitch, on the edge of the box. Basically, he cut in on his right foot and bent the ball in the corner, and it was a lovely bit of play, lovely bit of vision. 21-year-old young lad. I think he's come through. Their academy. Actually, he just played 61 minutes in this game, so he didn't play for long, but he made an impact. And there's not that much information actually I can kind of see on this fella, really. Actually, I said he come through the academy. I don't think he did. I think he came through at Vasco. So, but he seems to have played for a number of teams in the Brazil, in the lower leagues in Brazil, and has ended up at Bragantino. So, again, like you said about these young players, anybody who can, even at 21, it's still a young age. And if you can come on and play like, play in this division where it's full of youth and full of exciting players and prospects and quality players as well, then you're doing something all right, aren't you? And Bragantino are right at the top as well. So, again, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these players start getting, like you said, the man at Grêmio is getting touted for the likes of your team, Liverpool, and others at the top of the Premier League. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more of these players starting to be tipped to go to Europe and the higher ends of the European leagues.
Yeah, he was named actually as in the Guardian. The Guardian did a list, 60 top talents in the world. I think last year, top talents born in 2003, I think it was, and he was on that list. So he's been he's on the radar somewhere. 21, yeah, he's on somebody's radar, and that's a good start for him this season. Bragantino right at the top of the pile after Matchday 3, so a good start to the season for them. Maybe this will be the year that they kind of announce themselves as a real contender, which they inevitably, it feels like they will do at some stage. But anyway, that's the young player of the round, match day 3. Well done to Bruninho, and he follows a Matteo Ponte and the other chap who I can't remember in round 1.
It was
Gustavo Martins. It was Gustavo
Martins, yeah, from Gremio,
yeah, not a defender this time. So that's fantastic. So that rounds up the awards this week, and it also kind of brings us to look ahead to next week, really. So again, we said when we look at the fixtures, we don't want to only focus on the top teams. But George, I'll let you run through the fixtures initially, and then we'll just touch on which ones we're going to pick out as the games of the week. So if you're ready for the funky music, you run down what we can look forward to after the midweek continental games.
Yeah, so here we are. So it starts. It's a game week. It's a match day week, which spans over 4 days. This one, James, actually. So we start on the Saturday evening, 27th of April, 8 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 4 p.m. Brazil time, isn't it? Vasco da Gama take on Crusuma. Cuiabá then host Galo at 10:30 UK time. Then we go into Sunday, the 28th of April, 1 a.m. UK time. Bahia host Gremio. Then 3 o'clock, which seems a little bit of a strange kickoff time, 3 p.m. on Sunday UK time. Flamengo face Botafogo, which is a bit of a derby game. We'll cover it, I'm sure, in a moment. Then 8 p.m. rolls around UK time. Corinthians host Fluminense. Cruzeiro host Vitória. And Bragantino travel to Fortaleza. That one's 10:30 p.m. UK time. And also it is Sunday, 10:30 p.m. UK time. Juventude against Atletico Paranense. Into Monday, then there's only one game. Midnight UK time. Inter host Atletico GO. And then Tuesday morning, 12 a.m. UK time again. Sao Paulo host Palmeiras in the one of the Sao Paulo derbies, and that will conclude match day 4, James.
Fantastic. That's great. Some big fixtures to look forward to. And like I say, we don't always want to cover the big teams, but when there's big derby games, we want to get familiar with those and kind of look at them. So the 2 games we're going to pick out this week. So George, I think you're going to do the Sao Paulo derby, aren't you? The Choque Rei, they call it, the King's Clash. Sao Paulo are at home against Palmeiras. Palmeiras, of course, as we know, again, much in need of a win following a slightly underwhelming start to the season. So you're going to be doing that one, and I'm going to be taking the Rio Derby, one of the Rio Derbies, which I'm sure has a name as well, but I'm not sure of it. It's Flamengo versus Botafogo at the Maracanã. So another huge game, really. And again, 2 teams who've started the season pretty well. So they'll be looking to make an early mark on their rivals and go to the top of the table. I think whoever wins that, although Bragantino, with a trip to Fortaleza, will probably sit atop. So, but yeah, that's what we're looking ahead to this week. And George, I know we wanted to end every show as well with a bit of a look at the table. So do you want to just kind of run through the table? I might have a different song for you this time to help it ease along. Let's see.
Fair enough. Well, just a note on the Flamengo. So you said Flamengo could sit at the top of the table, James, because they kick off before Bragantino on the Sunday, so it's quite a number of hours before. So they might, with a win over Botafogo. But yeah, Sao Paulo one is massive as well. Like I said, Palmeiras need a win. Sao Paulo also the first home game for the new manager coming in as well. So they got a big win and much needed win to kickstart their season over the weekend just gone. So yeah, we'll find a way with the table, and then we'll wrap it all up.
Yep, stick it away.
So, oh wow, bit of rock for this one. So we've got top in the table at the end of match day 3 is Red Bull Bragantino. They have 7 points. Also on 7 points in second is Flamengo. Third to 6th all have 6 points. It's as follows: Botafogo, Paranense, Gremio and Inter. Then on 7th come Galo on 5 points. 8th to 13th all have 4 points each. So it's Fortaleza, Bahia, Fluminense in 10th, Palmeiras disappointingly in 11th place currently, Cruzeiro in 12th position, Juventude in 13th, then comes Sao Paulo on 3 points in 14th, Vasco da Gama sit underneath them on 15th, also on 3 points. With 2 points in 16th position is Criciúma, and then the relegation zone, 1 point for Vitória in 17th, 1 point for Corinthians in 18th, and then still yet to score a point is Atletico Go on 0 points in 19th, and Cuiabá prop up the table on 0 points, having only played 2 games as well. There's a couple more teams that have also only played twice as well. But yeah, no points for Cuiabá or Atletico Go as of yet, James. But that concludes the table there for you. End of match day 3, going into match day 4. A nice bit of rock and roll.
There you go. So yeah, that's the table. Looking good for some, looking not so good for others. That sounded a bit like Egyptio, didn't it, that rock music?
Oh, yeah, you'll have to check that out, James. Egyptio Tijuana is Tijuana is with his old rock band in the 90s to sort of mid. I think they dismantled in 2017. Obviously now he's got his new one up, Cali. So go and listen to that. After we've done here, it's all right. Yeah, it's decent.
That's great. I think I will do. So again, wrapping up another fantastic week of Brazilian football action. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the Copa de Libertadores and the Sudamericana. We certainly will. And we'll be back again, hopefully next Tuesday, to let you know how things have gone in match day 3.
Match day 4.
Match day 4. Yeah, you're right. Match day 3 was this time. Okay, everybody, well done. So, match day 3, that's a wrap. Adios.
Adios, James. Yes, adios, everybody. See you next week.